Hello, I'm Pep Rosenfeld, and Salesforce and I welcome you to this episode of Leading Through Change. This one will focus on marketing. During this time of disruption, marketers are all asking themselves a lot of questions. Questions that include, how do you engage with customers in a way that is both personalized and sensitive? How do you reevaluate your channels and your budgets during this time? And of course, how do you keep your employees engaged and happy while they're working remotely? This episode will feature a conversation with Deborah Fell, the Chief Marketing Officer from one of our trailblazers, Hästens. So get out of your Hästens bed right now and get ready for this episode.
Hello, and welcome to Leading Through Change Marketing Webinar Series. My name is Frank Rombouts. I'm a Regional Vice President at Salesforce, and I will be your host for today. During the upcoming episodes, we're going to talk about marketeers and how are they chasing with the different marketing practice they're doing during COVID-19. Today, I will be joined by Deborah Fell, the Chief Marketing Officer of Hästens, Anders Gustafsson, Regional Sales Director at Salesforce, and Tord Nielsen, Lead Solution Engineer at Salesforce. But before we go and talk about Hästens, I would like to take a step back and discuss with you what has been changed in the world of marketing. So we know that you marketeers are having lots of questions, lots of pressing challenges. Questions like, how can I communicate with my customers and be still sensitive? How can I be helpful and appropriate? How can I deliver that connected experience through all different touch points? How can I do this as close to real time as possible? How am I going to do my marketing from home while everybody's working from home? I'm sure these are questions that you're confronted with on a daily basis. So at Salesforce, during the last 2 months, we realized that companies are going to 3 different stages. The first one is stabilize your company, the second one is back to work, and the last one is grow your business. And it's extremely important that during these 3 different stages, we're going to focus on the different solutions that are available for leadership, for employees, and for customers, which will create a lot of business consistency. So if we look at stabilize your company, it would mean focus on your employees' health and safety. At the same time, we have to make sure that we create a financial stable situation. And we need to be able to create and make critical business decisions. Because finally, we will all get back to work. And getting back to work for you could mean different things. It could mean back to an office, continue to work from your home office, or maybe in a retail store. But we have to make sure that we provide everybody with the right tools to make the right decisions and communicate to our customers in a whole new way. And when we have walked to those 2 stages, we finally will be in a position to be a digital and agile company in a position to grow our business. So that's where Salesforce is here to help. And we're offering you 4 different solutions to navigate to your COVID-19 communication plans. The first one would be engage with your customer with empathy. The second one, personalize your digital communication. The third one, optimize your budget spends. And last but not least, market from home. So I'm going to talk you now to all these different stages and explain what it is you need to do. So it's important to engage with customers with empathy. We would like to know the age of our customer. We would like to know where these customers are living, because maybe they're living in a highly impacted area. One way of doing that is collecting data using social media tools. As a follow-up on that one, we need to be personalized in our digital communications. And one way of doing that is using a lot of AI tools, because AI will make it possible for us to do this as close as possible to real time. Because in a period of time where we are in now, that offices are closed, stores are closed, airports are shut down, the most important way to communicate with our customers is digital. We need to deliver the right message to the right person at the right time. And that is not easy, because when times get critical, like we're facing today, in times of crisis, we often see that budgets are being cut. which means that we need to optimize our budget spends. There are marketing analytic tools available that can help you to give that data, so we're ensure that we are delivering to the marketing KPIs. Because it's extremely important that the output of the campaigns we're doing are high impact, especially when we have less money to spend. And last but not least, market from home. We need to make sure that all of our employees are equipped with the right tools. They need to have marketing applications that are accessible from everywhere, delivering the highest level of trust and security as possible. We need to provide them with collaboration tools, tools that make it possible to share their work with others and increase productivity. And finally, learning platforms. Salesforce has a learning platform called Trailhead, which gives the marketeers the opportunity to stay completely up to date about the latest marketing technology trends. Now it's time for me to introduce our fantastic trailblazers, Hästens, and let me do that by introducing my colleague and best friend, Anders Gustafsson.
Thank you, Frank. My name is Anders Gustafsson. I'm happy to be here today with the CMO of Hästens. We're going to talk a little bit about how Hästens is dealing with this current situation and how Deborah and the team are tackling this. But for those who don't know Hästens, Deborah, maybe you can give a little bit of an introduction to about yourself and your company.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Anders. Deborah Fell, as Anders mentioned, are CMO for Hästens. We are a company that's been around for a long time, since 1852, and through the fifth generation of the original founders still running the company today. We handcraft premium beds. We operate stores around the world, and yet at the same time, we're also very focused on modern marketing in working with Salesforce.
This company has been around since 1852, with one single idea in focus. No, actually, it's not just an idea. It's a passion. It's a passion for beds. A passion that has made Hästens march their own way for 6 generations and made the company #1 in the world when it comes to building beds by hand from natural materials.
Cool, thank you for that. So we're absolutely going through some of the new normals here these days. How has these initial challenges been, and how have Marketing Cloud helped you in your day-to-day work?
Initial challenges have been that with some of the countries essentially closing down borders, people not going out, we operate in stores in countries all over the world. And so at a certain point, many of those stores are closed. And so we have retail partners without traffic and stores without traffic. And so it was, while unfortunate in terms of the COVID-19 breakout, we were fortunate to have already been through our pilot with Salesforce Marketing Cloud and had developed many practices to be able to reach out to customers. And we also have a way of working, of being close with our partners. And we were able to, really sort of ramp that up to begin to be in even more frequent contact, but through video conference, as opposed to all the face-to-face contact, which we enjoy.
I think that a lot of us has changed the ways that we are working both on a personal and professional level. Yeah. How have these 6 weeks changed the way that you have been working, or is there anything that has been coming up that you are focusing on now that you didn't do before?
I have for years been working on video conferences, working with global teams around the world, whether I was the one traveling or they were the ones, in different parts of the world. I have to say that Hästens really has become very, very inventive and quick to pivot in this new world. Our head of sales, Joachim, turned our 3-day in-person sales boot camp that was to be in Köping, Sweden, which is where our headquarters and factory is, turned it into 3 days of video conferences. And while 6 hours of video conference seems like a lot, I have to say the interaction, the teams were excited and enthusiastic to be together. We managed the time zones so that North America and Asia could still be together, and really brought in, I would say, even much more interactivity than we might have used when we're in person. Sometimes corporate marketing can be guilty of this, doing a lot of one-way communication, presenting decks and documents and giving information, some of which could easily be sent in advance, right? And so we adapted, and I suspect that this will become a more permanent part of what we do, that we'll always meet face-to-face. You'll always need that. But these trainings that can happen online, just increased interaction and engagement, just like we want with our consumer, we want with our sales teams and partners as well.
Mm. Is there anything from a marketing specific change that you have an example of, or because I really like this coming together and also the difficulties obviously from different time zones, but you and your team, is there anything that you have done differently?
Absolutely. We had begun weekly newsletters going out to our sales teams and partners. Actually, they started more periodic. And then when this all occurred, we began a weekly newsletter. And then our CEO, who's been running this business for a long time, has a real good sense of the sales team and the partners. And he said, why don't you do it every day? And at first we're thinking, oh my gosh, a newsletter every day. But as it turned out, we're doing work every day. We're planning, we're executing, we're developing a tool. And so we began to put that out in a newsletter to our sales team and to our partners, which gave them certainly something to hold on to, that the Hästens team is working on their behalf every day. We may be sitting in our homes, but we're still focused on them. So every day we have a Hästens marketing update newsletter that goes out. It could just be a social post and a press, something that was published in the press. It could be an email template that we created that they actually use for one-to-one marketing. To check in with their clients and prospects and leads. But I would say that newsletter lets them know we're working on their behalf, is optimistic and forward focused. And yes, it does provide them with some tools that can be helpful if their stores are closed. And now, thankfully, when their stores open back up again.
Yeah, and I think this is pretty interesting, right? Because we're used to go, or at least the majority of us is used to go to the office, but you've been working remotely for many years, and you're kind of used to this way of interacting. Do you have any, and you're running your team this way as well, do you have any tips for the marketeers out there on how to think and how to maybe adapt to this new working from home situation?
I think, number one, it sounds simple. Everyone should always have their picture on, not their picture. They should always be live and visual, because there is something about the eye contact. So when you're looking at the screen, you're actually looking at people versus a D for Deborah on a blank screen or just a photo. So I would say having the visual, the live visual up. Number two, ensuring that there is engagement. You may be conveying information and having discussion, and making sure to engage everyone. I'd like to think when I'm in a meeting with my team, if we discuss something, that I'm always going around and making sure everyone gives a chance to give feedback, right? Because you don't want the extroverts to be the only one who talk. But in a Zoom, you really have a visual picture of who's talking and who's not. So I think it's very important just to give everyone a voice and to also keep them engaged. I don't actually recommend a lot of 6-hour Zooms. So, giving breaks, if you do need a longer Zoom, acknowledging people may need to take a break. And the other thing, this would be the last thing I'll mention, I think, at first when we were doing this, someone's cat had snuck into the room and suddenly they appear on the screen, and or their child accidentally opens the door and they're so apologetic, or their dog gives a little bit of bark and they're so apologetic. I say bring it on, because we get to see so much of the humanity and the people that we work with on a daily basis. I've learned so much, and I thought my team was cool already. And also even on the sales boot camps, I saw a horse in the background, and it just was so wonderful. So I would say allow people, certainly you don't want disruption to the point where you can't conduct a meeting, but so what if a little head pokes in the door? So what if there's a little, yip in the background from a dog or a cat tail that, scuttles by? Embrace it. And, the more human contact and the more of ourselves that we can be in challenging times or in, biggest growth times, I think is only good.
I agree. I think authentic self is always good, and we definitely have a lot more toddlers in our team these days than we usually have. So, we're in this situation now. What about the next 6 months? What's on your top of your mind, and what's on your priority list?
That is a great question, because we are working on not just our daily marketing newsletter for today. We're focused on what we have rolled out, continuing to build it, and we're also focused on rolling out, initiatives and new ways of working, such as Marketing Cloud, and then thinking about over the course of the quarter, the 6 months, the year, what's our content strategy, what's our new product strategy, what's our event public relations, who the collaborations are that we're working on, and new technologies that we're rolling out. So it's important to manage the current moment, make sure, you have business sustainability and that you're communicating all these things, but it's critical to plan, not just optimistically, but plan for the future, because certainly we have one.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for sharing all this. And before we round up here, I would ask you to maybe share 3 tips for the marketeers. You already shared some for the working from home, but what 3 giveaways should you take now to the marketeers out there that is tuned in today?
The first one has 3 components: communication, internally and externally. That's first and foremost, and to do so in a caring and authentic and empathetic way. Give people some room. So communication, number 1. Number 2, I would say absolutely focus. It is easy to be distracted. So it's unacceptable to just shut everything down and do nothing. It's also unacceptable to suddenly proliferate with a bunch of random acts of marketing that don't really accomplish anything for the business. So focus on what's most important now and cut the other stuff out, or put it in park until you figure out if it's really important or not. So I would say focus, and that's for today, as well as focus for the future. And I would say the third thing is really what you brought up. I'll call it a pivot. Be prepared to pivot. Whether it's, you're seeing consumers or clients or customers, suddenly they may be doing things in new ways. How can you prepare to pivot and to understand how people will work in the future, and to be there with them for the future? So pivot both in terms of, are there new opportunities you want to grab hold of, as well as just pivot to your future and the necessary planning in order to achieve your future.
Thank you, Deborah. So how is Marketing Cloud helping you on a day-to-day basis?
It's so important because it helps us get to know our consumers better, so that we can do better targeting and develop more relevant messaging, and therefore add value to our consumers. Number 2, it helps us be able to measure the performance of our marketing, because we can track through the behaviors and then understand, based on consumer behavior, what should we do next to serve this customer and to serve the business. So those are really the 2 critical pieces.
Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing these thoughts and knowledge with us and everyone else on the call today. Been a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you. We are going to hand over to Tord Nielsen, who is our solution engineer, and he's going to show us a little bit about what Hästens is doing today and how it looks behind the scenes. Tord, take it away.
Thanks for that, Anders and Deborah. I would like to show how a brand like Hästens could capture, unify, identify, segment, and activate their synonymous data assets. So why is this important? I see three main reasons for this. Today it's more important than ever for marketers to build trust by getting permissions from your customers to engage with them and to do this with transparency. Today, Audience Studio is the only platform managing 6 distinct flags for customer consent. The second reason is the connected customer experience. Marketers need to create unique experiences. This is done by connecting all of the different departments at the company and all of the different data silos that you might have. Think data warehouse, CRM, e-commerce, and call center data. The third reason is a deeply personalized relationship with customers. 73% of customers say that an amazing experience with any brand raises their expectation for experience with all the brands. Now think about that. If you have one incredible experience with anyone, that's now your new normal. So without the DMP, you can only understand, as a marketer, a very small sliver of customer behavior. You might already know and understand your customers, but without being able to identify synonymous data, advertising interactions, site behavioral, second and third party data attribute, marketers have very limited insights into how customers are behaving. Audience Studio is the leading data and audio solution. We can capture data from any data source, unified into a single ID and a segment ID, into valuable audiences for targeting and analytics. Our solution leverages Einstein to help marketers discover valuable new audiences, connect with customers on any addressable touchpoint, and provides rich insights into how campaigns perform. On top of this, it's completely compliant with the changing data regulations and ensures consent management across all your audiences. Let's have a look how a fictitious company like Beautiful Beds Limited can leverage Audience Studio to help build the brand in any market situation. All right, now we're in the UI of Audience Studio. The thing we can see here at the very top is all the segments that has been created by Beautiful Beds. So this could be segments based on web behavioral data. It could be segments based on certain campaigns that we have running. Someone might have booked a service case or a store appointment. It might be even the email campaign responders coming back to our site, for instance. But what I want to do is I want to take this segment and increase that. So people engaging with the site is interesting to me as a marketer. I can see I can access 11,000 personas across 32,000 devices. But what I actually want to do is I want to increase this segment by using something called lookalike. So I can increase the reach as much as possible, or I can stay close to the similarity of this segment. And in this case, I want to make sure that I have strong similarity in relation to the segment I already have. So I'm going to create a lookalike. I'm going to then be transferred over to the business rules section of Audience Studio, where I can then combine rules to expand my segment. In this case, I have my 3 visits in 1 week data and also now the lookalike audience. What I can also access here is my first party data. So that could be my CRM data, it could be paid media, my Salesforce Marketing Cloud data, or even my Salesforce Service Cloud data. But what I'm going to use today is site data because I'm going to leverage based on site behavioral, people who has been browsing a certain product. I'm going to add my operator here, products. I'm going to add the different kinds of products that people have been browsing. I want to increase this to 3 times over the last 90 days in terms of impressions. So I'm going to add that rule. I'm also going to add another rule, and that is in relation to Store Finder, because I know people looking for the location of the store in London and the US in this case is very, very interesting to me in the combination with the above rules. So I'm going to add that as well. Something that is very powerful within Audience Studio is something called Data Studio. Data Studio is our platform to be able to sell and buy someone else's first-party data. So in this case, Beautiful Beds would be able to actually sell their first-party data to other partners out there in a secure way. But I can also acquire data. In this case, I can acquire data from one of my partners called with Michelin restaurants. So again, add another group, add this segment. The segment is called Starred Restaurants Enthusiasts. So that's interesting to me as a marketer for luxury brands, a luxury brand like Luxury Beds. I'm going to add that rule as well. I could, if I want to, add third-party data from partners like DataLogic. So that could be income, it could be age, it could be other sorts of demographic data that I might want to use. But I'm actually happy with this, so I'm going to continue and edit the details in terms of the naming convention. So here I can give it a name, a segment type, a category name, or even a subcategory name. All in good because we want to be able to be transparent for marketing to make sure that everyone understands the reasoning behind this. The last thing I want to do is activate this segment. So when I activate this segment, I can actually send this to site, to my own site, meaning that anyone that is coming to this site and can be matched with these identities is going to then be put into this segment. But I can also send it to MediaMath, the Trade Desk, or Google if I want to. So if I would have only be using, for instance, first-party data, I could have actually sent this back to Marketing Cloud for re-identification as well, meaning that I can onboard segments from Marketing Cloud into Audience Studio. I can track what people are doing on the site and everywhere else, since we can collect the data from all our partners. And then we could re-identify them and send it back to Marketing Cloud to continue the email conversation based on what has happened within Audience Studio. But I'm happy with this, so I can save and view my configuration and go back to my segments. Here again, these segments are going to be constantly updated and be used whenever I want to get marketing campaigns up and running for these segments. So this is a short demo of what Audience Studio looks like for Beautiful Beds. Thanks for taking the time to look at this demo. It was very brief, and I hope we get the opportunity to talk again what Audience Studio can bring to you and your company. Thank you.